And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready.
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Up. Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spare.
Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready.
We ready?
Shooters down. Shooters down.
Are we good?
Shooters down.
Shooters down. Are we good to move?
Shooters down. We're good to move.
We're clear.
We're
Let's
clear.
move.
We're clear.
Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus.
Let me get my shoes.
Okay. Nice shoe down. Get the shoe.
Watch out.
Wait.
Sick of following.
Sit down near me. I want nothing from you. I'm not here to lead. Let your mind be focused, yet without a single thought. If we sit amongst each other, it's a council of the gods. And you know that they hate us. You know they keep us locked in these cages. They wanna keep us fighting over races. You know this cause they show this if you look to the past. So you should know that this time won't last.
You get sick of following.
Sit down near me. Thoughts are really things, and there's more than what we see. And we work longer and harder, more often than ever. Explain to me how you think it's getting better. Cause you know that they hate us. You know they keep us locked in these cages. They wanna keep us fighting over races. You know this cause they show this if you look to the past. So you should know that this time won't last. So when that day comes, will we pick up our guns? Or roll over and be had like we've always done? Public schools kept me stupid and my diet kept me weak. A civilization isn't civilized without peace. Lord forgive me, I'm not helping much at all. If they come for me, I'll use their blood to paint the walls. I know better and I'm trying just to pray, but I won't leave until I'm done with what I came here to say.
Used to make an angel smile. Nothing on earth has excited you since. Plus, if you're a king, where's your prince?
We're all fighting a hard battle, mostly with ourselves. Slavery is very much alive and well.
You used to make an angel smile. Nothing on earth has excited you since. Plus, if you're a king, where's your prince?
The boy that stabbed you, do you remember his eyes? Do you think the day he did it, he kissed his mother goodbye? Did his family stay up waiting for him that night? I wish I could have told him we're both fighting to survive. Christ took a spear to the ribs, you can take one too. Remember that when they crucify you. They walk on land, you walk on water, and they know not what they do. Remember that when they crucify you. And the sea parts, and the clouds make way. It's the most horrific story that we've heard today. And it's death, death, painted on a child's face. And there's eyes, big brothers watching over me. And we, the people, gun each other down like we forgot we were equal. And I still hear the sounds I woke today someone new. My eyes weren't heavy, there wasn't pain through and through. I didn't force myself to move or think of getting killed. I was content, I spent the whole day still. So while the earth still spins and the sun still sets, I found strength comes the day after rest. I found the terrible bait of the world doesn't lure me in anymore. I found the ability to walk through a locked door. All my illusions became defined, and I was of one mind, and I was everywhere, and I was not alone. I found matter moves through me, there's nothing a man can do to me, and I'm finally on my way back home.
All right, guys, welcome back to a very special episode of Triple B Collective. Today I'm joined with Brother Ryan as well as Brad. We're doing a three-way discussion today, which is something new for the channel. Don't know if the panels will be divided up to where you can see us all at the same time. I can't quite figure that out, but we thought today that we'd get together and we would talk directly to Antifa, just three Nazis spouting our beliefs and trying to say, hey, this is enough. We've had so many killings this week, acts of violence, acts of terrorism, acts of police brutality, acts of government expansion, acts of authorities being overstepped. I have my opinions with what's happening with the Trump administration. There's some things that I'm looking at right now, and I'm personally feeling very conflicted about. I look at Venezuela, and I'm like, fuck yeah. And then the other part of me is like, we just went into another country. So it's a really conflicting time to live through, and I feel like if we let our emotions and our reactions get the better of us, if we let our anger and our hatred grab hold of us, then we're not going to be able to achieve anything. So I've gathered Brother Ryan and Brad here, and we're going to sit down and have a conversation. And today, Antifa, we're going to be talking directly to you. So I know that I've had you both on the podcast before, but maybe starting with Brother Ryan, can maybe just give a little bit of your background, just a quick little introduction, who you are, where you've been, where you are now. Would you consider yourself a Nazi? Would you not? And then we'll move on to Brad and take it from there.
Okay. Well, I'm 57. When I was 13 years old, I joined a Southern Baptist church, and I was that for a while. Then I was 18. I met an old hillbilly holiness preacher. That, of course, was before the tattoos and the piercings. And I was his assistant and very, dedicated to that theology. And then I got more into just the Christian survivalist thing for a few years, and then got into Christian identity through circles of people I met and things like that. And became very, very hardcore Christian identity. Christian identity, real quick, in a nutshell, is basically it is, instead of the Jews being the chosen people of the Bible, believe that the white race is the chosen people of the Bible, the descendants of the Hebrews. I believe that theology, and I began to become a speaker, teacher, and writer, Christian identity writer. I also joined Aryan Nations from Pastor Richard Butler, the founder of it, was still alive. I was one of his members and officers. Never did make it up to Idaho, but I was very dedicated to the Aryan Nations message. I liked it. It's in the dying days when I joined it. And then from there, I also joined a Ku Klux Klan, a couple of Ku Klux Klan groups, and got involved in some of those sorts of things there. And I ate, drank, and slept my Bible, and ate, drank, and slept Christian identity, which is race. And I was never into politics. I've always considered myself, since a young fellow, I've always considered myself an anarchist, a Christian anarchist. So I never wanted a government to enforce my beliefs on anybody. It was all reactionary and defensive is the way I looked at it. So when it came to Christian identity, I was still an anarchist. So I was around a lot of people that were white nationalists, that were National Socialists or neo-Nazis. There were people that were just wanted a white republic, things like that. And I was mainly, my thing was the white race was being attacked, and I seen it as a spiritual or racial holy war. And I was just standing up for my God. I wasn't trying to fix the world or anything like that. I was just trying to serve my God because I felt that's what I was supposed to do. Then that's my background and the way I thought. Other Christian identists and white racialists may have, ex-racialists may have different belief systems. Now, I still believe in race and genetics as far as that goes, but I have a different way of looking at that. But then again, I also believe in chromosomes and that there's only two genders. Sorry. So I believe in those things, but at the same time, I also, what got me out of that Christian identity belief, Christianity in general, and what got me out of the whole racial belief system and things like that, and seeing things as fearful and, anger and being enraged all the time, and constantly triggered by the media and shit like that. Even though I knew the media was controlled and full of shit, I would watch them because I always felt like I was monitoring the enemy. That type of stuff. And just kept me in a hyper state all the time, angry, frustrated all the time. But at the same time, I was like, well, I'm just fighting for God and standing up for the truth and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not into the status system either, blah, blah, blah. What got me out of the thinking of that Christian identity thinking, Christianity period, was the occult, was mysticism, esotericism, metaphysics, quantum physics, those sorts of things. Because I was seeking a spiritual connection with God. I wanted spirituality. I wanted my prayers answered. I wanted, when I prayed for somebody, things to happen. So I was always fascinated with spiritual events, metaphysical things and events that would happen in people's lives, everything from near death to aliens to demons to angels. I was fascinated by all this. I've seen miracles. I've had prophetic dreams that came to pass. I know other people have had, et cetera, et cetera. So I had all this. So I knew there was more to life than just the physical aspect. Well, I tried to deal with that for well over 30 years, looking at it from theology. And in my opinion, I found that to be just a rabbit hole of bullshit. And I renounced Christian Christianity. I now see the book, as we were discussing earlier before you hit record, I now just see the book as another metaphysical or mystical book, the Bible, that is, Old and New Testament. And then it has some good moral teachings and good stories, but there's a lot of metaphysical teachings. But anyhow, so now I am an occultist, but I'm not a member of any group and will never join a group. I deal with things from a metaphysical occult point of view. And I no longer see that we're not actually, in the back of things, we're actually not each other's enemies. Now, you want to get into that, we can. But I no longer see us as enemies. It's just all of us trying to wake up. But the problem is the waking up that we are God, we are all God, to waking up to that is being quelled by all these outward issues, race, politics, Donald Trump. It doesn't matter. All this type of stuff to me is actually a distraction from your core self. That's my opinion. That's the way I see things today. If I can help someone, whether it's a white racist get out of that world, Christian identist get out of the world, or an Antifa person get out of that world, if I can do that, but something I say that inspires them, that's my only agenda.
Amen. Brad?
Let me see. Start. I don't know. I was in the militia basically from my birth. Well, not really, because we didn't start it till later on. But about 13. 12, 13, I was in and around the militia movement. Actually, before it was actually called the Michigan Militia, it was called Second and Third Op 4. What we would do is basically play the the bad guys for any military unit out there. So I was young age. I was being trained by former Green Berets, former Navy SEALs, like Vietnam era type guys. Till I got really good at being in the field, And also my uncle, who had started all that, he was an intelligence analyst, and gathering and intelligence analyst. So I'm good at that. All this has pretty much become second nature to me. So my normal every day is, gathering intelligence and assessing targets. That's it's hardwired into my brain. And noticing patterns, I guess. Later on, I joined the Navy. Became a SWIC operator. First real world operation was Operation Just Because down in Panama. Then later on, when the drug interdiction down in South and Central America. But it was by the time I was 21, hunting and being hunted by men. After that, 1992, I got out of the Navy. Things were starting to change politically, so I just said, screw it, I'm not going to sign up again. After that, I was a welder, truck driver, then bounty hunter. And then Hurricane Katrina hit, and that's when I was introduced to the world of private military contracting. 2 weeks after Katrina happened, saw a lot of things there, and then later on went off to Kosovo, Haiti, Eritrea, South Ossetia, and then ended up in Afghanistan for 3 years. That was my last contract. And now I just build precision industrial. Well, I used to build precision industrial machines. I lost that about 8 months ago. Gave me a severance, and now I'm just doing odd jobs in my shop, building things and whatever anybody wants done, and working on my own cars. So that's what I do. As far as my beliefs, I do consider myself a Christian, but I don't. More along the lines of Brian, we spoke a little bit before we started recording, and we seem to agree on some things, but I don't care. There's differences. I do feel that there should be a separation with the races, because we just aren't getting along. But everybody's in an uproar about the guy or the group in Arkansas, I think it is, that's starting a whites only settlement. Everybody's all upset about that, but it's okay in Georgia for blacks to do the same thing. I don't understand it. They want to build Wakanda, go right ahead. You do it. Nobody's stopping you. At the same time, you're allowed to do the same thing. That's my opinion. But yeah, I think, to be honest, I think we should just separate and leave each other alone. We're not getting along. Peacefully separate. I'm not talking about a war, because we've already discussed that on a previous podcast. We were, Ty and I had. But I have been listening to, or basically paying attention to, a lot of what Antifa has been saying. And if we would just sit down and discuss things, because in their mind, I think they think socialism is going to be the answer to everything. And and I can see what they're writing, and it seems like they want freedom, but they've never picked up the U.S. Constitution and said, hey, we aren't actually following this. If we were, nobody would be at each other's throats. I mean, yeah, there'd be skirmishes and stuff, but I mean, for the most part, if you sit down and read and apply all the principles of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, we wouldn't have the problems that we have with each other. Period. Because they're wanting freedom, but it's like that what you're asking for isn't freedom, it's slavery.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd say that sums it up perfectly.
But all they have to do is listen and okay, well, that's covered. Well, this is this is we want this, we want that. Okay, well, that's covered in the Constitution.
Yeah. And I think there's opportunity for that, especially with you being here today. Like, I'm praying to God that even if it's just a hate watch, that people on that sphere will take the time to listen to this conversation and to just hear us out to the end and to just find the heart to do so, because people can change. I've changed. Ryan's changed. your opinions have shifted over time. Like, we're all put in this predicament that's set up for civil war. And I'll just give a quick bio of mine, just on the off chance that someone is watching this for the first time. It's just like, who the hell's this kid talking to these two dangerous men? I'm just a pothead with trauma trying to do the right thing, essentially. I was, came from Odessa, Texas. It was a little bit rougher, but mama moved us out of town to a good neighborhood. Didn't appreciate the life I had. I was doped up on antipsychotics, antidepressants, anti-anxiety pills. I was suicidal. I was the kid in the back of the class with the black hoodie on, sitting in the corner. Everyone's just kind of looking at all suspicious while I'm drawing skulls and dead bodies and writing horrible poems and shit. Getting sent to the office as the red flag student when I'm just sitting here like, no, I just really like Rob Zombie. And then that problem child, though, persisting into me getting kicked out to live with my father and coming to realize that my father had connections with the Aryan Brotherhood, with the Mexican Mafia, with all these different organizations that I had no idea about. My white suburban teacher, soccer mom, type mother had no idea that was going on. She wouldn't have sent me over there. And then all of a sudden, I'm just in the world of drugs and criminality and learning about all these different things, learning about the occult from different white supremacist members, learning about their backgrounds, having dinner with them, sitting down with them. And for all of that, whenever my father had finally snapped, he threatened to kill me, my grandmother, murder and rape X amount of relatives, years and years of cyber stalking, slandering me to the point where he actually got gangs in town to put death marks on me should I ever show back up into town type shit, like getting messages like, our boys will roll up on you, you will be gunned down if we see your face type shit. So I took a lot of my pain and trauma and suffering, turned it into drugs, alcohol abuse. More than most people can proudly say I've never done meth, fentanyl, or heroin, at least to my knowledge, because I've gotten a lot of random shit. But a lot of really, really bad drug experiences, got really heavy into cocaine, psychedelics, painkillers, stuff like that. And as I was numbing my mind, living in my trauma, not really figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, I found my way into Antifa when I moved to Eugene, Oregon. 2018 to 2020, about 2 years of my participation in what I now believe is an insurrection against the United States government and the Constitution. I believe that we were weaponized. I tried to walk away only to receive threats, isolation, losing all my friends, losing family, and I could never get past it. It just kind of haunted me. So eventually came out, spoke to Buck Angel for the first time, who allowed me on his podcast. And the way I essentially see it is the role of former Antifa members that we can play in society right now to help us steer away from civil war is for us to tell our stories, because really only everybody on the outside can only really speculate. Even people who are completely spot on and they're saying everything right, their words don't hold as much weight because they weren't there. So that's what I want to change. Just like the detransitioners came in by the thousands and were like, hey, we all got fucked. This is what we did. We were a part of a cult. This is the damage. This is the trauma. This is what led us here. This is what led us out. I believe that we can fill in that same role, which is exactly why I'm reaching out to people like this. Because, Brad, when I'm like hearing you and like what you're like prepared for, which I think is reasonable. I don't like the race separation idea. Obviously, we have a lot of differences on that. But I feel you're where you are because of what Brother Ryan would explain as a pendulum swing. People on Antifa over here, people like you over here, everyone's just causing this back and forth friction. I don't think Antifa is going away. I don't think white separatism is going away. I don't think white supremacy is going away. I think ultimately over time they are going to evolve. At one point in the 1940s, we had Nazi Germany and we had them gunning down Jews and doing all this shit. And it's a whole debate we can have another time. But you fast forward now, and I see men like you guys. You're the furthest thing from. So that tells me that these things have evolved in time. My prayer is that 50 years from now, maybe Antifa, people like that, can be a little more level-headed, just keeping an eye on the government, not doing all the crazy shit they're doing. That's just me. But what I want short-term is to just avoid a civil war by us just all coming to the table and saying, hey, this is who we are, this is what we want, and we're sick and fucking tired of turning on the news every morning. Another person gunned down, another building explodes, another train derailed. It's gotten fucking ridiculous, and I don't want to see a civil war for any of our futures.
One thing I want to note is it wasn't my beliefs and, from who I met from my uncle that formed my ideas of separation. It was other races' behavior, particularly the black race. If I'm the nicest guy in the world and I walk down a black neighborhood, can I do that safely? No.
It's a valid concern.
So it was their behavior that brought me like this, not mine.
That's a good point, man.
Excuse me?
That's a good point, because that's what got me. Was I grew up in the middle of a Texas field in southeast Texas, on a farm. So I wasn't around when I went to school. There was a few blacks, mostly Mexicans as far as non-whites, but mostly white. In my adult life, where I moved to in Tennessee, beginning at 17, early adult life, I guess you could say, and the Carolinas and other places in the South and stuff, what brought me, it took me a while, was I began to see that there literally was a difference. Where when I was growing up, I never said the N-word or any of that stuff. I didn't understand why people were racist. It didn't make sense to me. I never thought much about it. But like Brad said, not to interrupt you, Brad, but yeah, it's their behavior. It's the same thing about the Jews, bro.
Yeah.
I know you're old enough to know the Jews. I know in your circles, and definitely in the Christian identity circles, which I said earlier, they do overlap. That's how I got into white power. I was a Christian separatist, and I was never a member of a militia. Me and some people, we teamed up for survivalism, but we absolutely sympathized with all militia movements. John Trockman, Cornicky, all of them. So, but for me, it was when you start to come across like the Jews. Well, yeah, the Zionist occupational government, ZOG. I know Brad's heard that and read that term 1,000 times. ZOG, Zionist occupational government. Doesn't the Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump thing and all that, doesn't that prove we have ZOG?
Yeah, it does. Well, at the same time, if you
the white racists were and Christian identists were saying before you and I were born, bro.
Yeah, well,
you didn't see the behavior of the Jews or blacks or whatever. So you're not wrong, Brad. You can't deny what you see.
And right. I want to say too, like, speaking as a man in a homosexual relationship, again, I got my husband, love cock, sorry. This is what gay people are doing right now. This is what trans people are doing right now, to even guys like me, to where if there's any sniff of indifference, like in Eugene, the trans people and the gay people, they operate like a cult. So like I lived on the U of O campus, right? So you got all the gays, you got all the queers, you got all the commies, you got all the people here. What are we doing when the cops are rolling out? We're scaring them out of the neighborhood. I'm sitting up there with a machete or a gun, and we're fucking playing fuck the police music. Anytime a conservative walks downtown with a MAGA hat, everybody in town gets on their fucking ass. So what's happening now? People are fucking getting mad at the gays. People are freaking out about the fucking gays. And who brought it on themselves? The gays.
That's another good point.
So I understand this.
It's the behavior. Who was that that sung the song? Was it, I went blank. Johnny Rebel? Who would sing the song, It's the Attitude Stupid? You ever heard that song, Brad?
Yeah.
It's the Attitude Stupid, and it's a song about blacks. It's like, because your fucking attitude. It's your attitude. And so the only thing that I would say to people like Antifa, anti-racist, people like that, is I would say, all I ask is understand we have legitimate beefs. And, the white power movement has legitimate beefs. They have real issues. Instead of saying, no, you don't, your pattern recognition is wrong. No, Zionist Jews ain't this. Blacks don't do that. Mexicans don't do that. Listen, racialism is based on generalities. There's always exceptions to the fucking rule. But when you look at 13% of the population, yes, I'm going to rattle out this old stat. 13% of the population commits 99.9% of the interracial rapes, the majority of interracial violent crimes like robbery, murder, and assault. Then there's an issue, and we need to deal with it. We need to point it out. And so when you have like the Hodge twins, which are the two black twins, right? And you have these black folks that are pointing it out, I would hug their necks. I'm like, thank you. That's all we're asking. Thomas Sowell, read his shit. I have. When I was a white boy, I read Thomas Sowell. And I would read these black writers and stuff like that. I read Colin Powell's fucking autobiography. It's like 2 inches thick. I read this shit. I was never an ignorant racist. I would learn about Jews from Jews' own books. Benjamin Friedman. radicals. He's a Jew. I read the freaking books, man.
Wasn't Benjamin Friedman the one that had the old audio as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if he did the audio as well. I know. I read his book and his read or listened.
Yes, and then you had Arthur Kessler, who was a Jew, wrote the book The 13th Tribe. They point out these things about the behavior. I read Oscar Botsky's. I said this in the previous podcast I did with Ty. I have read Oscar Botsky's book By Way of Deception. He was a Mossad captain.
Yes, I read that one as well.
And I read it. So my racism was never based on total superstition or hate or ignorance.
Or crack open the Talmud. That'll really open your eyes too.
Talmud will fucking do it for you every time. And so then I've got on video, I've got blacks saying Hitler was a good guy, the swastika is a beautiful symbol. I've got a Jewish rabbi on video saying the swastika was beautiful and Hitler wasn't a bad guy. You've got Jews that have come out saying the Holocaust did not happen, and it didn't. I don't give a shit if anybody don't like that. Okay, all of this, let's put these things out on the table. Let's talk about this shit. Because if I can sit here and talk to someone, you can learn the Holocaust is bullshit in one weekend.
Yeah,
And not read one thing written by a white supremacist.
No, mathematically, you can figure out that it didn't happen.
You can think of the facts. Okay, Zyklon B. Why were all the death camps found 2 years after World War II in 1947? Why were they all found in Eastern Germany, not one found in Western Germany? I could go on and on and on and on. So these facts, it's like if you want to lay out 9/11, you want to lay out the Federal Reserve System, you want to lay out all this shit. Let's just sit down and shut the fuck up, quit arguing and killing each other and hating on each other. The system wants us to fight. So when there's issues with blacks, and other blacks are saying, yeah, we agree. There are Jews that are saying, yeah, there's some Zionist Jews are assholes. When you got gay people, when you start saying gay people say, you got other gay people act like assholes. When we point that out, we say, hey, but the points that we all have, they all make sense. Let's compare. But see, they don't. They want us to stay in our own echo chambers. The internet is the worst thing in the world for that. They want us to stay in our own echo chambers and hate each other. And by the way, Brad, I love you, brother. Absolutely. You have a right to be racially separate. And that community in Arkansas, I believe Thomas Robb, who's a Christian identity minister, is behind that. But that separatist, why can't people be separate? There's blacks that separate. I think it's awesome. If you want to be around gay people, you don't want to be around people that dress in black. You want to be only around metalheads. You want to be around only tattooed people. And if you can work that and you all get together, I think that's awesome. And that's what America's about. It's not about hating other people. It's simply being, I just want to be around these people, right? And just live my life around these people. There's not a goddamn thing that's immoral or unnatural about that.
Let me ask your opinion on that, because obviously I have different views on that. And the reason I'm conflicting in my mind on that is because I live near Dallas, Texas. And right now we got this thing called Epic City. Have y'all heard of Epic City yet?
I haven't.
Epic City is a Sharia city built in Dallas, miles and miles and miles. They have their own suburbs, it's like a giant ass nice community. And what they're trying to do is make it exclusively Muslim, based on basically Sharia, whatever they can get away with. So what I worry about is if we open the doors to either one of those, then the other comes in. What that registers in my mind is taking the jihadi elements of my local sphere, what's going on. If they're able to establish their own cities, base it in Sharia, and essentially start popping those up all over the United States, similarly to the UK, in my head, it kind of feels like the whites-only communities would be comparable in the fact that I feel like it's the beginning stages of national division.
Or
and in my opinion, it should be avoided. But that's just kind of because, like I said, seeing next door, I'm just like, we got how many Muslims and they're doing fucking what? They got a city. I've only been gone 9 years. They got a fucking city. So it's like I hear stuff like that, and then I just kind of wonder. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Have you ever heard of Dearborn?
Of what?
Have you ever heard of Dearborn, Michigan?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know where you're going.
I mean, they don't bother anybody. If you go there and you're polite, they don't care. It's when it's all this internet crap that keeps digging shit up, and it's like, okay, people that actually live here, like the only thing they're pissed off about is the call to prayer. The Christians that are still there, because that happens at so ungodly time. But
Well, this is a chance for me to mention that there is a definite difference between a separatist and a supremacist.
Yeah.
A Muslim supremacist wants to push their beliefs on you. A Christian supremacist wants to burn you at the stake or create an inquisition. A atheist supremacist doesn't want you to have any religious beliefs. A black supremacist only wants to be around black folk and wants to rule over the white people and make the white people their white cave monkey slaves, whatever they call us, right? Okay, that's a supremacist, and I am absolutely opposed to that, and I was when I was a racist. I do not believe in ruling over other people. That's disgusting to me. I want everything to voluntarily, everyone wants to be. So if somebody wants to create a separatist little community, who the fuck are we? If the Muslims want to do it, hey, whatever. But the minute they try to push it on other people, that's when we have a right to push back. But this is America, and the whole concept here is it's supposed to be you're free to believe and associate with who you wish, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Exactly.
You can't push in one form of living or one style of living. You can't do it and claim you believe in freedom.
And you can even go create a communist commune if you want. It's been done.
Absolutely.
It was done back in the 60s.
Oh, fucking all over Oregon, Georgia, No Cop City, like all that.
No. There was actual literal. Sorry.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm just saying that there were actual communist communes made back in the 60s.
Yes, there was.
They aren't around anymore because everybody gets pissed off at everybody because nobody doesn't work.
But at least they tried it and they had the freedom to do it. It's when you want to push other people onto someone, that's when you're not a separatist, you're a supremacist. Different story. When people want to push things on you. But separatism is let people believe and see things. You don't have to be in a war with each other. There's plenty of space in America. I'm sorry for everybody. That's what everybody is here. That's just what I believe.
Well, we got plenty of open land.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. What would you classify Antifa as, supremacy or separatism?
Well, if you're asking me,
yeah,
I'll tell you straight up. If you break the non-aggression principle, Antifa is furthest from an anarchist there ever was. The minute you want to use violence on another person and claim you're being defensive, busting shop windows, attacking people in their cars, you're a scumbag criminal and you should be shot on sight. That is supremacy. They are no different from all the so-called fascists and tyrannies that they bitch about.
I see them as an insurgent group that is guilty of sedition. And
they're seditious against their fellow human being. They want to use violence and they justify it.
Well, what I brought up before was if the Constitution was actually followed, nobody would have any bitches. No, I mean, but you know as well as I do, it's not being followed.
But they'll talk about it all the time. Trump's the most unconstitutional president we've ever had. It's like, he ain't perfect, but I don't think that you understand what that word means. Like, it's coming from the same group of people that just told me to shut up for being white 5 minutes ago. It's like, no.
Well, if you actually read the Constitution, most of the laws we have on the books are unconstitutional and they're illegal to be enforced.
Well, when the Constitution was written, there was only 3 felonies: piracy, treason, and counterfeiting. There are now almost 6,000 felonies on the book. Here's my thing with the Constitution. I'm licensed. When it comes to Constitution, I see it as Lysander Spooner did, who was a constitutionalist lawyer in the 1800s, who became an anarchist. When you read the Constitution, who has the power to print the money? The United States federal government. In 1787, the Constitution was ratified, became the law of the land. 3 years later, the ink wasn't even barely dry in 1791, and they created the first Federal Reserve called the First National Bank, and that was the Rothschilds got their hands in. George Washington, Samuel Adams, all them others turned against their own people with the Whiskey Rebellion. they turned around and murdered their own fellow Americans so they could fund their little federal experiment. So the Constitution to me was just a corporate charter starting another corporation to rule. It was elitist scum ruling over. When the Whiskey Rebellion, when George Washington did, was absolute treason against his fellow Americans. We had the same thing later on in the 1990s with Ruby Ridge, which was over taxes, and Waco, which was over taxes. So I have no use for the Constitution.
Ruby Ridge? How much was the tax actually worth?
It was $200 per shotgun.
It was $200. It was basically $400 in taxes, and
it's $400. Absolutely.
Right. Well, his wife lost her life, and so did his son.
Wait, you're saying this was all done over $400 in taxes?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Fuck. I remember meeting a guy from Ruby, or who was near that at one point. He was like driving near where all that was happening, and he was talking about how all the officers were stopping the cars. But then he noticed like they're all opening the trunks and they're sifting through, and he was like, I'm pretty sure they're putting things in people's vehicles. And I just remember him telling me this whole story about what had happened. And he's just like, yeah, anyone who was around that knew that there was something bad happening. They had no support.
Enforcement. A 14-year-old boy was shot in his back up into his armpit, killed him almost instantly. A nursing mother was shot in her fucking head by Lon Horiguchi, a sniper, an award-winning sniper, over taxes.
While holding their baby, I think a dog.
And they say, well, what happened with Sammy, who was shot in the back? What they're saying there, who I'm thinking was shot in the armpit was, what was his name, the family friend? No, it was Randy. Randy was shot in the armpit. He was reaching. Yeah. But Sammy was shot in the back, and that was during they were doing on the land. The U.S. Marshals were saying he had committed contempt of court, which is a fine and maybe a little bit of time in jail. Contempt of court for not showing up, and the only reason he didn't show up is because the judge, which it came out in the court case, had lied and said you're going to lose your land on the bond whether you show up or not. Well, he had put everything he had and moved his family out there, built their little house and everything. And then he's told he's going to lose his land. So this man feels like he might as well go broke. His wife, who's a Christian identist like I was, his wife was a Christian identist, and she's seen this as, oh my God, it's the devil for, trying to attack us. And all this, that, and the other. She started writing letters, trying to get people to understand what was going on. The whole Ruby Ridge thing was over the ATF, which is a branch of the Treasury Department. Once again, just like the Whiskey Rebellion is about federal taxation. That's all it is. And the federal government has been corrupt from the day it was birthed. It always had, and I'll tell you what, people love Patrick Henry. They love give me liberty or give me death. They love to quote Patrick Henry, but they never quote his other famous quote. What he said about the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, he said, I smell a rat. He refused to be part of it. He was part of the anti-federalist movement, which should have been called what it really was, the anti-constitutionalist movement. And I myself am an anti-constitutionalist because I see it has brought us to where we're at today.
Well, we were supposed to still have the articles. We should have stayed with the articles.
At least kept the Articles of Confederation. Yes, sir.
Now, see, here's the problem. We're going to lose a lot of people going into all this.
But we created a federal empire that Donald Trump, that's what he's doing with the whole Greenland and Venezuela shit and all that. It's an empire. He's building an empire.
See, and if we lost them 5 seconds ago, they would have loved that part.
Do what?
Oh, saying if we lost people like 5 minutes ago, they would have loved that part because, people just always think Trump, white supremacy, white separatism, Nazis. And it's just like, I don't think Donald Trump has quite the support structure y'all think he has when it comes to matters like this.
No, like I said, and the media has it up on their website. When you look in their archives, they've got me quoted. When I was in the White Power movement, they had me quoted when I had a website where I exposed, and I was trying to tell these white nationalist morons that were voting. Remember, I was a Christian anarchist identity believer. And I called him out and I said he was an uber Zionist, and it's still on their website, the ADL. They said some white supremacists and white separatists and racists don't agree with Donald Trump. And I even had to argue with other white nationalists on white nationalist podcasts about saying, why would you vote for this guy? It's not just because I'm an anarchist, I'm against him. He's actually a uber Zionist. He's a big bitch to the bankers. He doesn't care about a shit about any of the common men. Look up the documentary You've Been Trumped, and look how he treated his fellow whites in Scotland over his stupid golf course and hotel. Donald Trump is a sociopath, and I said that. And like I said, the ADL has me quoted on that. So instead of looking for all these great white hopes to save us and all this other shit, we need to start looking to one another and start treating each other that way and forget statism is elitism. That's all it is, an elitist class. George Washington was an elitist prick, just like Hamilton and all of them. Because if you're going to take guns up against your fellow Americans who had fought alongside you in the Revolutionary War, and you're going to turn against them because you want to just arbitrarily declare a tax on their liquor to fund your federal government, that's bullshit. That's treason. I don't consider anything treason except for what you do that's against your fellow human being.
I want to pick y'all's mind about something that I've been kind of
We
pondering.
just lost it.
Oh, is he come back? Should I wait a minute? I'm gonna wait a minute.
No, I just had to grab.
Oh, okay.
Water.
You had to grab beer.
No, this is just water. I might mix myself a drink here in a minute.
There you go. Me too.
If I didn't have to work, I'd have a beer right now.
Well, I
No,
created the most dangerous drink, so all it is a little bit of pure maple syrup, about that much vodka, and the rest just water. God damn, it goes down way too good. Way too quick.
I was always more of a whiskey guy. Vodka, it's like drinking gasoline to me. Whiskey, yeah.
Well, I can't drink tequila. There's a murder in every bottle.
I had to quit drinking for 3 years, and my last drink was a double shot of tequila. Didn't go well.
Well, if we ever happen to be at a bar and I'm drunk enough where somebody suggests, "Hey, let's do shots of tequila," and I say yes, just run. Just run, get out of there. So just run.
Well, it's the same. I'll confess. A couple nights out in Antifa, I might have had a couple tequila shots. Kind of makes you a little different.
But for me, there's a murder in every bottle.
For that. But what I want to pick your minds on is one thing, because so we got wars all over the place. Obviously, one big conflict being Ukraine. So when the Ukraine stuff started coming out, I got pissed off because all of a sudden I'm seeing iron crosses. I'm seeing these white separatist, white supremacy movements. They're meshing with the government. But this is what I'm conflicted with after speaking with you guys. The way that we have is my perspective on that's kind of shifted to where I was looking at it as these are Nazis infiltrating the government, which, by the way, you'd think the left would have been freaking out about that the whole time. No one was saying shit. But, what I see in hindsight is, yes, these people were part of white separatism. Yes, these people were part of white supremacy. Some of them, different groups, obviously, not all Ukrainians. But at the end of the day, they came together to defend their country. And it's, I don't know, where do you see America going if we get invaded tomorrow? Obviously, guys like you, Brett, you're going to be fucking out there. You're going to be some of the first people out there defending us. And the Democratic media is immediately going to go, oh, these Nazis, they're going to start spinning all the shit, doing everything they can. And while I do think that there's a real concern that white supremacist elements could get in and that could be incorporated into the government, and that's quite frankly the last thing that I would like to see, I feel like we're dividing ourselves so much that we may not be able to have that same capacity that Ukraine has, to where they really all seem to come together despite their differences. And yeah, there was a lot of things like, yeah, there was some Nazis duct taping gay guys to poles. There was some torture going on. There's a lot of fucked up shit, and no one's denying that. It's a fucking war. But I don't even know exactly what I want to ask, because it's just a whole scenario I'm playing in my head. I guess, how do you think the American people are going to respond whenever war does come to this country, full-blown war? Say it even just happens in one city or one state and it's one battle at a time. How do you think the American people are going to respond to militias fighting for their country? Because I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be taken well.
how will the American people respond, or like?
I guess just in general. Yeah, we'll start with the American people, but I don't even really have a narrow question on that. I'm wondering when that day comes when we're faced with the same catastrophes that Ukraine's faced with, which NATO started. Are we going to hate each other so much that we're not willing to have good men fight by our side despite our differences? Because that's something I kind of want to heal with this is, maybe there's even 2 or 3 people who watch this podcast and they're like, the world's gone to shit. I know I called this guy a racist 3 years ago, but he's really good with guns. He's really smart. At the end of the day, he was never really a dick to me. I don't care about his Confederate flag. I should probably go talk to that guy and get some advice or help or something. Like, I feel like there needs to be like a cultural shift in a sense before all of this happens to where Americans can stand together, because I don't think the threat of an invading army is going to be quite enough to unify us.
Well, if it happens like right now, in this specific climate, are you talking about like an external invasion?
Yeah, external. And obviously sleeper cells popping up. Like, this is the time we're taking America. BRICS has got together. All the foreign cartels have got together. This is the attack we've been planning for X amount of years. We can't let these imperialists get us. Time for October 7th on United States soil.
First, well, I can't say it can't happen because we've already got Trump decided to let in 400 or 600,000 Chinese students. So we have that standing army here. So that army's already here. You have an army of Karens out there trying to protect the poor Chinese people that are killing, that people are defending themselves against. It would be such a mess. Like I said in the previous podcast, if it happens, I don't get to pick who I'm shooting at. Because
that's a sad reality. But when you said that has just rung in my head ever since you've said it. And I understand it, but it's
the only people I can really trust are people I grew up with, maybe my family, probably. I'm not sure. It would be such a mess that I don't even think I can wrap my head around it, to be honest.
It's an honest answer. Ty, the way, my videos, they're older videos I re-uploaded. The one, Divine Madness, Freedom. And the other one, the one and only thing we all can agree on, or can we? It's a long title, but I addressed that. I addressed that very issue is, can we all at least agree on freedom? Here in America, the culture of the American culture is supposed to be is about freedom. Like you were talking about the Muslim communities or whatever. If we can at least agree on that, like if Brad wants to only live among white folk, can he just be allowed to do that? Okay, if we can all agree on that, then when something comes down, all the people from different communities, yeah, we could fight shoulder to shoulder. But the problem is when we don't see each other as having that one common bond. Now, the reason that you have Ukraine, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's mostly a homogeneous society, meaning it's all basically the same race. And when you have homogeneous societies, that's something you learn in a race because, again, my racism was never based on ignorance. It was based on study, intense study on genetics, sociology, history, all of that. So understanding homogeneous societies have a power to them. There's an agreement. Now, but at the flip side, in the white power movement, I was militant and all this, that, and the other because, I felt like I was fighting for God and standing up for the truth and freedom. But at the same time, I idolized the men of the order and things like that, and was contact with Bruce Pierce and things like that when he's in federal prison. These men were my heroes. Now, I'm not going to get into everything on that on video, but I ate, drank, and slept this. And I had come to realize, I said, I'm only fighting for God and my truth and my conscience because my fellow whites hate me. So you can't even get the white race to stick together. You can't get homosexuals to stick together. Even Mexicans don't stick together. Blacks don't stick together. So if there's something we can all agree on about at least standing up for one another's freedom, but see, they've taken that from Americans. It's funny, Brad mentions the Karens, and I laugh, but, he's not wrong. That's a form of division. It's a sociological tool used to divide us. Have you ever, well, for Brad too, but Ty, have you ever looked up the guy on YouTube, Chase Hughes?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
I think because you had mentioned him. Yeah.
This man is ex-military intelligence, and he is low-key telling us how to undermine the system he used to work for. He's low-key because he genuinely loves his fellow human. He came to that. He came to realize it's not an us versus them. It's the status elitists want to rule over other people, manipulate, and it disgusts him. I see manipulation. I know when people are being manipulated, but they keep us manipulated against each other. And again, Ty, your work here is you're trying to show that we all do have a common ground. But if we're all trying to grab the power of the government statist system, white power people, constitutionalists, lefties, whatever, Muslims, everyone's trying to get a hold of the statist power, and then they get control of that power. They want that one ring, like the Lord of the Rings. They want that power. All of these different belief systems, including the Karens of America, they all want that ring of power, and all of that must fall. It must fall. We must stop seeking to rule over human. If you want to be free, then you have to recognize the sovereignty of your fellow humans.
I agree with you, but I think the question was, what would it be like if it popped off now? It would just be an ugly mess.
Now America would fall.
Yeah, America. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't have. I don't think we would have a country.
No, it would fall.
And on top of that, it'd be a bloodbath beyond even my imagination.
The minute, if you just say you had two factions, the left and the right, and they're fighting against the Chinese invasion, okay? At some point, when the left or right start seeing, at some point they start seeing the other one's going to get a little bit more power or influence, they will attack them too. They will undermine them too. Let's don't fool ourselves here. I understand warfare very well. Now, Brad, you talk about Brad. Myself, if there was an invasion, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I took an oath years ago when I was part of a certain little group that I can't even mention the name of, it's an offshoot of the Klan, that I would be a suicide soldier. I'd be a frontline suicide soldier. We were called the Legion of the Dead. And I meant it. So if there was an invasion of this country, yeah, I would do my duty, gentlemen, and it would be very evil and very wicked what I would do, because I don't believe in rules of war. I would be absolutely cruel and ruthless. But to what end would that be? Would the Americans go back to being free from the Chinese invasion and go back to fighting each other? See, there's a deep-rooted problem here that must be addressed. We have to respect one another, even if we hate each other's beliefs. We have to have enough respect to not want to use our beliefs to rule over another person like the Christian church did, where it fucking persecuted people, called them witches whether they were, burned people cruelly alive at the stake, delay the leader of the Crusaders when the Catholic Church got scared because they were learning occult secrets about the Baphomet, Sophia. They burned him slowly at the stake. That's what Christianity is. Atheism does the same shit. It slaughters people by the tens of thousands. Mao Zedong did it. Stalin did it. Lenin did it. Trotsky did it. They slaughter people. That's what government does, and Antifa is playing that. The right-wingers are playing in that. The left-wingers are playing in that. It's time to stop. The militant Christians, the militant Muslims, we have to say, you know what? I'm going to agree with whatever your lifestyle. I don't have to agree with your lifestyle or your beliefs or whatever, but you're my fellow human being and you want to be free. I'm going to fight for your freedom. You fight for mine. But they keep us at each other's throats, see? And we've got to identify the real issue. It's the elitist versus us, not whites versus you, not Zionist Jews, not bankers. Because let me tell you, there's elitists in trailer parks. The elitist mindset is big in cops and the police. Okay? You know, I said in the last podcast, I don't trust any cops because I understand the psychology of it. If you think you're over another person, you have authority over them, and you can look down on them, that's an elitist mindset. So you can be elitist in the ghetto or the trailer park. Okay? There are super rich people that are not elitists. They don't want to hurt anybody. They just want to invent things, create things, and have fun with their money. So it's not about economic class. It's not about race. It's deeper. Look at what Chase Hughes and people like that. Okay, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. I know Brad knows about that. Okay, the Protocols, Learned Elders of Zion. These books laid out the game plan for you. That's a manipulation. It's a form of witchcraft. It is. It's a different form of the occult. It's messing with your mind. These psyops that they do, it keeps us at each other's throats instead of saying, you know what, Brad over here, he wants to be with white folk and live his community. Okay, I don't agree with that. I want to be an interracial, whatever. But we respect one another. And if I seen you broke down the side of the road, doesn't matter your race or religion or anything, if I can help you, I'm going to help you. That's the American way it should be. We used to open doors for each other. We used to be nice to each other. Excuse me, thank you. We were polite to each other in America. Let's look back at that time. Why were we so goddamn polite to each other? We felt a unity, a unification, you see. There was a bond. That's gone. And that was gone before Brad and I were born. That's gone. And it was
culture. Sorry.
Well, even when we were growing up, we were a lot more polite to each other than we are now.
Yes, sir.
I'm so shocked when I'm nice to them. I am so courteous to every customer at work that I interact with. I am, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Can I help you do this, that, and that? Do people get genuinely shocked when you're nice to people? We shouldn't live in a society where people are shocked when you're nice. That's bad.
Fighting against physically doing war, which is horrible, pure horror. War against an invading army. We're invaded already. They have broken us down mentally. And the elitists, by the way, China's never going to invade us. There's a little secret. Money runs the world. And it always has. Money. I don't hate money, but it's people that are elitist minded that have money. You get a lot of people in the trailer park. In the religious world, especially the holiness world I was in years before I got into Christian identity, if those people had power, they would have been as bad as the freaking Muslims. Okay, the women could wear dresses. They this blah blah blah. People they want political power to force their belief on you or their way that you should live. Dude, I was watching. I shit you not, man, on YouTube. I was watching some footage from not Jerry Springer and another talk show host and Oprah, and they were attacking these young teenagers that back in the early '80s that were dressing like goth or punk. And they were attacking them, and what they looked was, I look more wild than they do, And they were adult men and women standing up in the audience and saying, "I would be ashamed of you. You would not live in my house." And they'd say, "Your own daughter or something?" No, I would not. Wow. Okay. It's amazing how we fear someone being different when they're harmless. I get compliments when I go out. I get compliments on my look, my tattoos, and, jewelry and the way I dress, right? My wife and I are very eccentric the way we dress. All right, we get a lot of compliments. Sometimes we get glared at. It doesn't matter to us. We're just being ourselves. This is I like to wear jewelry. I like all this shit. I like tattoos. I love this shit. All right? But people and other people will treat you, they have no tattoos, nothing. Oh, I just love your looks, Old ladies, oh, I love your tattoos, sir. I love your
Old ladies love tattoos. That's something I've learned.
And it's because they appreciate something different. I still conduct myself with absolute respect and honor when I'm out in public. I'm very polite to everyone. I'm in the store, whatever. When I drive, I let people in traffic. I try to be nice, right? Be what you want to see. If you want to change the world, if you have a leftist ideology like Antifa or the extreme right wing or whatever, you have these ideologies. If you want to win someone over, you win them over with honey better than you do with vinegar. I know Brad grew up with that saying. Well,
yeah.
you be kind to one another. What will happen is either the people will come to believe something that you believe, or they will at least say, I respect your beliefs. When I shaved my head and I had, black people say, you're the nicest skinhead I ever met. I said, well, I'm not trying to be a hateful, asshole to people. And they go, I understand. I'd have blacks and Mexicans tell me, say, I understand your points of view. Makes sense. Yeah. I was that kind of racist. I was like, I didn't see the point in just, wanting to force everything down someone's throat and saying, well, I hate you just because you're black. Well, that was retarded. And I got into hardcore Christian identity where we believed all non-whites were created by the devil, but yet we still did not believe in mistreating them. Now,
And for anybody who thinks you're lying, I've met a lot of people like you, and through childhood, through my teenage years, even in Eugene, I've met white supremacists and peoples of different groups all over, and it amazes me how many Black and Mexican friends they have. On average, it's like that's one thing that kind of got me over time, is because you kind of have to sit and think about it. It's like, well, if the left if what they're telling me is real, then what about this moment? What about this time I saw him smoking a joint, laughing with this dude over a YouTube video? What about this time I saw this dude going out in his fucking truck, drag racing with the bike? It's all this, like, these subjects aren't what they're painted to be. And that needs to be understood. And I'm understanding that even more with every conversation that I have with you guys. And that's why there needs to be more conversations like these from people. It's why I don't, kind of like I told you, it's like Charlie Kirk was killed and everybody was like, the time for debate is over. I'm like, yeah, debates make people angry. Debates make people bitchy. It's got a time and a place. I like a talk. I like sitting here smoking weed with white supremacists and former white supremacists and all this shit. I love fucking sitting here and running my mouth on YouTube. Sure, I'm living in constant paranoia. Did I piss this person off? Is this person going to kill me? Are they watching me? Are they doing this? Are they doing this? I'm probably more paranoid and traumatized than I've ever been in my entire life.
Well, I can tell you right now, you want to be free of that? You want to be free of all that paranoia? Stop worrying about what other people think of you.
Exactly.
Why does their opinion matter to you, Ty? Why does their opinion matter to you?
I'll put it this way, and I can't get too personal into it just because I don't want to be like airing dirty laundry and people around me, but I've gotten all of the love in the world, I feel like, from people on YouTube and from having these conversations. It's just thousands of comments, nothing but love. You could probably fit, like, there's probably like 20 bad comments that I've ever read. There's more, but it's not a lot on average. What gets me with this and why I have this drive so hard is because there's still people around me that I care about who just don't see it, who don't see how it's affected the world around them. And I know that's something I shouldn't care about, but it's like, I feel like while I've been trying to educate the world and do this podcast like this, I feel like there's certain people in my life that I've been trying to like get these points across to. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me that feels like a failure knowing that this country is so divided that that could never happen. And I think that's where a lot of my emotion and a lot of the pain comes from, is it's just people in my sphere who I love, who aren't really political or ravenous, but they just don't understand or see the things that I've seen. And I'm just sitting here like, we're going to be at war. People are going to die. People are going to be shipped out of the country. We are surrounding ourselves in a digital beast system. We're imprisoning ourselves. We're killing ourselves. And there's just a part of me that's just like, even with my involvement, even in all my time, it's just like, it just fucks with me how certain people can't see it. But it's just the people closest to me that fucks with me. Someone can go and call me a faggot and a pole smoker and tell me to jump off a bridge online. That's fine. I can laugh about that. It's when the people closest to me don't realize that they're hurting themselves and that they're turning the blind eye to certain things have put people in predicaments in my life to where, the only reason I have so many horror stories to tell is because so many people around me weren't willing to say anything. I was always one of the only people willing to say anything. And so it's like, I've been going so hard as to prove this point and to going in this direction that I have. I feel like just to prove really to just my closest family and friends, and even the people that I've lost, especially in Antifa, who I hope find this channel, that like, this is breaking people. This broke me, and I don't want to live in this pain forever. And but I also simultaneously know that there's thousands of people like me out there, underrepresented, and their stories aren't heard. But if people heard these fucking stories, then they'd get it. Because people in my sphere, they hear the story from me. There's not guys like me on YouTube. There's not guys like me podcasting. There's a little more now, but on average, people don't recognize things like Antifa and communism, even when it's right in front of their face, even when their children are being butchered, even when their friends are trying to jump off a fucking bridge, even when they're sitting there fucking shooting up with heroin and meth and fentanyl. And, these people were still wanting to go put on the black mask. It's like, there's a part of me that hurts so much because I want them fucking out of that. Because they're realistically, all the people I've mentioned, they can't fight. they will be killed. I feel.
Right. Well, the thing, but is you're mentioning the key thing though is you're talking about people who they got drug issues, other psychological issues, again, trauma, things like that, and they're acting out trying to fix the world. Why aren't they trying to fix themselves?
And that's what I'm realizing with the podcast and why I'm going to be changing the format moving forward is I think I've been trying to fix the world the whole time with this. I need to focus a little more inward. You know, I need
That's
to
what I told my wife about you. I told my wife about you a while back after our first. I said that young man needs to focus on himself because he has a lot to give the world, but he first needs to kind of get his thinking straight where he wants to be. Because I think you got a good heart, young man, and I think you do a lot of blessing to a lot of people, but you can't let the negativity drag you down. That is an ergor. That is a pendulum, son. That's not you. The true you is full of love and wonder and creativity. And you need, if everyone ever tapped into that, I did. When you tap into that, all this other shit just goes away. You don't worry about it. Instead of looking and saying, well, our world, the America's going to go this way and this is going to happen to the world and all the spear porn shit, that's trauma that you are psychologically traumatized, just like I was. You are pumped with fear. I was since I was a kid. Fear of the system, fear of this, fear of that, fear of this, and dare to live fearlessly. You follow your dreams and people will follow you. But you've got to, a leader, I always said as an anarchist, a leader is a person who just goes forward and they look behind them and there's people following them because they're inspired. A ruler is someone who tells you to go forward. Okay? It's like Nathan Bedford Forrest, the cavalry leader, the first imperial wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. He would charge out as a high-ranking officer in front of his cavalrymen and they would beg him, General, Colonel, sir, please do not do that. And he was a general. They would say, Brigadier General. They'd say, General, please do not do that. He would run out there with them into battle and decapitate federal soldiers and shit. But Robert E. Lee, God bless his memory, but Robert E. Lee would stay in the back. You see what I'm saying? I'll follow a man that will go first into the cave, who will jump first into the fire. I'll follow that. I'm inspired by that. But a ruler wants to sit back here and tell you what to do. Be a leader, young man. Just do you and don't worry if you get any views. I do my channel. I don't have no real agenda on my channel. I just play around, just post work stuff, just different shit I want to talk about. But I don't care if I get hits or not. I don't care if I get views or not. I don't really care. I just be me and let whatever's going to happen. But I'm not out here trying to change. It's like Ozzy Osbourne lyric. I'm not trying to change the world, but I don't want the world to change me. That's the true leaders of the world, because what happens is you'll rise up and do things on your own, and all of a sudden you'll find other people are following. You find that in the music world, where musicians or a band will come up with a sound, they'll create something, they're just doing what they really want to do. The next thing you know, they create a whole subgenre of heavy metal or something. That's the way you got to be. You just continue to be you. Don't let the outside world dictate your fears and all this shit, dictate where your life goes. That's my opinion. That's my advice to you. Is you should just continue. I said this to you another podcast. Follow your vision, because I believe in what you're doing. And there will be others that will rise up. You think you're the only one, but you're going to find the universe always has a little tongue-in-cheek thing. There's other ties out there doing this shit.
That's what I learned with Brother Scrub. I was like, holy shit. Like, man looks like my uncle. He's a juggalo and everything. I'm like, holy shit, same guy. Like, okay.
You'll find what you look for. You learn that in mysticism and the occult. You'll find what you're looking for. You'll find what you're looking for. You stay determined and set your intention that you want to be a blessing and a joyous thing, and you will be. But if you keep on saying, well, I got to react to this, and I got to stop reacting, start enacting what you want to do and ignore the outer world. As an occultist, to someone who about the occult, I'm telling you that. And if you want to use it from a Christian point of view, then focus on Jesus and the mission you have.
I've been giving him homework assignments.
That's intention setting right there. Set your intention and go forward. Operate out of love. Operate out of love and passion for what you're doing, and love for yourself and love for other people. And you will be followed. The people will admire you.
Yeah. And even a guy, like I said, coming from a crazy background like mine, like I said, the music videos are kind of just fear porn. It's borderline snuff when you watch it. It's like, it seems horrible, but it makes me happy doing it. But I'll have people from all walks of life commenting on these videos, like especially old people. Old people really want to get educated right now, and that's fucking cool. Because when I was doing things like Slipknot and all my rap music, that would drive away people. Now it's making people be like, I get what you're saying. I get what you're thinking. I get where your head's at. And it's like, that's
Be
help save
you.
me, I feel like.
Be you in your own. Every human being needs to be themselves and stop following groups and pendulums and thought forms and mob mentality. Instead, be your unique self. And the people that aren't supposed to be around you will fall out of your life, and those that are supposed to be will come into your life. Just follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell says. Follow your bliss. That's what he came down to in studying all the religions. He's a professor of comparative religion, and he came down to, if you put it all down and boil it all down, the one constant in all of the religions in the world is follow your bliss. That's how you serve God. If you believe in a God. That's how you do it. You follow your bliss, follow your dreams, and don't let anything distract you.
The other thing you should do is follow, look for the truth. That should be like a constant quest.
Yes.
To look for the truth. And the way you find out whether or not it's true or not is basically a lot of stuff is hidden. But if you find a something that not a whole lot of people know about, like what we were talking about earlier about the Constitution and the Articles of Confederacy, and we didn't touch on the Federal Reserve much, but anyway, you're going to be shocked. You're going to be like, oh crap, but that should be like a constant quest.
Yes, sir. Amen, brother.
Yeah. And question your own beliefs, question your own take
Always.
on everything.
Absolutely.
You always have to question yourself and what you believe.
Yep.
But you also have to be able to back it up with, it's hard to describe it.
Logic, reason, and results.
Yeah, but you'll actually get a physical response to the truth.
You get a little dopamine hit, like, oh, I learned something new.
Yes and no. It's kind of like it's almost a taste in your mouth. You'll get a definite physical response when you touch on the truth, and then you'll start digging more in that specific little area. I'm sure Ryan understands this. Like it's like an aha.
In my holiness background, we call that a quickening of the Holy Spirit. In the occult world, they call that being on the frequency that vibrates with your frequency. You get the chill bumps and stuff. There's something you're on the right path with.
Correct.
Something. And it just feels, like you said, it just feels good. It feels natural. And it's not burdensome at all.
No, that's the thing. It's not burdensome.
That's how I felt with my buddy Larry during the uninvited guest. It's just the whole time. It's almost like the more that was coming out, the more you're discovering, the more that all these external factors were coming in, and it was drawing all these connections. It's like, yeah, and it's like a rush, and it just makes you want to dig more and more and more.
That's
but be careful how you're digging is my only advice from that whole situation. But
part of the bliss that Joseph Campbell was talking about, that bliss, it's hard to describe. Matter of fact, bliss is an English translation of the word anananda, and there's no real English translation for that Sanskrit word, but it's like Brad is trying to describe. It's this, you're on the right path. It just feels right. It just feels good. Even if it's not something you previously believed, but it's just something, they follow it because it's leading you. So it's like your drive to create or to make or to invent or discover. Follow your blisses. And if we got busy doing that, we'd stop trying to worry about what other people are trying to distract us with and everything else.
The other thing is if you're on the right path, something or somebody's going to try to dissuade you or distract you from following that path.
Oh yeah.
And that's where you learn the occult. That's where in the occult you learn about intent setting. And the best way I can explain it to somebody in a biblical language, because I know the Bible so well, is one way I would look at it as the children of Israel in the wilderness. And they were told that they were going to the promised land, but to chill out, okay? And they're just supposed to send in the spies and check everything out, Canaan land and all this, that, and the other. If they had just fallen into their bliss and went anyway and said, do or die, but instead they chickened out. So for 40 years, they had to wander around in a circle. And that's what people do when they're afraid to go in for I knew a guy who was really, really good at playing a guitar in a small country rock and roll type band. But he was really super good. I mean, he could hear one song on the radio, chart out its music because he could write music, and he could play the whole lead part. and he was in a band. He did that for years, professionally, for many years. But it was always small, local, jukebox type cover bands, And he went to Nashville years ago, and he was going to go and do an audition at a one of these audio music studio type things where they do auditions. And he was going to see if he could be a studio musician, right, for a country band or something like that. And he had the skill. He drove all the way to Tennessee from the Carolinas, Nashville, parked his vehicle, found the building, started walking down the sidewalk, went to the door, and he says he got so scared, he started to shake. He got so terrified, he couldn't open the door. He just turned right back around, got his vehicle, and drove all those hundreds of miles back home. And he beat himself over the head for that for many years because he chicken shitted out. Don't chicken shit. Follow your bliss, even if people are opposing you. Thank you, Brad, for mentioning that, because you are going to have, all of a sudden, things are going to seem like it's trying to stop you from doing what you're doing. Follow your bliss. Don't look at the outside. Basically, be like a horse pulling a plow or something, or a wagon. Put the blinders on, okay? Set on your bliss. Keep going. Don't let nobody stop you, because ultimately it's you stopping you. No one can physically stop you. It's you stopping you. Follow your bliss, and it will be worth it every time.
And that advice, if anybody who's a part of Antifa or was a part of Antifa is listening to that, that's for you especially. Like, for me especially, because none of us were following our bliss. I knew so many musicians, painters, geeks, so many people that if they had just, stayed at home, we're all locked down anyway, stay at home, smoke some pot, write that book you've been talking about, make that song you've been talking, do all this shit that I wasn't doing. I had a whole art studio, and I barely even made anything. I tortured myself with that. I was surrounded by all these pencils, all these books, all these tools were at my disposal. I'd probably spent hundreds of dollars on. I couldn't fucking touch it because I was so worried with all these external forces. I was so worried about preparing for civil war, and all these good ideas that I had in my head then, they're gone. I don't remember what the fuck they are. I know there's some good ones in there. They're gone because I wasted my time. And if these people really want to fucking expose government corruption, do what fucking Tom McDonald did. Make music. Paint a picture. Do something that shocks the hell out of us.
Exactly. It's like this flag behind me in the ring I have on. It says Memento Mori, remember death. In other words, that's an occult saying, and it simply means, like Corpus Diem, seize the day. It simply means you have so much time in this life. You need to follow what supposedly you came here for, your destiny, your dharma, whatever you want to call it. But you need to follow, and the only way you're going to know that is the blisses in your life. Follow your blisses, and if you don't know how, like, well, I want to do this, but I don't have the money for the schooling, or I want to do this, but I can't move, or this, that, don't worry about it. Follow it anyway. The universe, or God, if you prefer, will make sure all that works, because everyone thinks that we're so much in control, and we're not. That's another thing I learned in mysticism more than I did in Christianity, is you're not in control of half of what you think you are. What you need to be busy doing is following your blisses. There's a lot of, I'm sure, Antifa people that are actually probably really creative, inventive, smart, but because they have suppressed it through all their pain and trauma and anger, the outer world, they don't deal with their insides, and they don't let that blossom out of them. They'll do more for the world than they ever could do going out breaking store windows or yanking people out of their cars or harassing people.
Yeah. I feel like I've changed more hearts and minds in this 2 years of podcasting than I did in 2 years in Antifa. And what I do, I make up fucked up music videos about people getting their heads blown off and their daddy fucking beating them. And you know what? People listen to that and they go, well, shit, that's fucked up. Okay, I have a heart. I get that. And yeah, it's violent. It's rageful. And, I got some sad ones and funnies in there, but obviously it's a lot more like hardcore, like brutal, because that's how I see the world, because I wanted people to see the world through my eyes. This is how my brain looks. This is what this is what I see all the time. This is what I feel like I live in. And because of that, I get psychological relief, and I feel like others get to connect with me more. And everyone in Antifa is capable of this.
Yes.
Well, why do you think you changed so many lives on this podcast rather than yelling at a bunch of people in the crowd?
Actual communication, actual expression. We're not actually communicating on the streets. We're not actually expressing ourselves. We're fooling ourselves into thinking we're doing that because there's a bunch of people there. But
you're pissing a lot of people off and putting them in a bad mood. Do you think you're changing anybody's mind that way? Ryan
There
brought
you
this up earlier.
Ruining people's livelihoods. Like, oh yeah, let's get together and dox this guy because he said the N-word. Something
Yeah.
I've done on a couple occasions. I was somebody who helped call people's jobs and be like, hey, this asshole, did you see what he said online? So I probably ruined someone's livelihood. That person probably had kids to feed.
And how many enemies do you think you created that way?
Probably a lot. And you know what's even funnier? One time, I remember there was like an Antifa or far left page. They're being like, this is this dude's comments. He left it all over. He works at the Kroger. You know, send him an email and let him know. I'm like, yeah, fuck this prick. I send it and they email me back and they're like, yeah, that wasn't real. There's no guy here who works by that name. So I just spent 10, 15 minutes of my life getting pissed off about this person that I've never fucking met. I'm going to fucking ruin him. And it could have been a fucking Chinese psyop for all I know.
So
Is it really worth it?
So you wasted your time on a bunch of hate.
Yeah. No, dude, when I got out of NA, I tell the story on the video, The Women of Antifa, and the girl that I met who identified as non-binary, she was a sex addict, became a prostitute. I met her in NA. I went to NA. It was the Buddhist meditative version of it that was at the Unitarian Church in Eugene. And I was working through a lot. I was like, I got to put down the coke. I got to put down the ketamine. I got to put down the Xanax. I got to put down the LSD. I'm spiraling. I'm drinking like 3 old Englishes a day on top of that. Like, I am not living on this planet. So they helped me get through it. We do the meditations. Everyone there is super fun. I made a new best friend. And there's a part of me that wonders if this friend was a plant of sorts because they instantly saw the political fire in me and then chose to then weaponize me against the NA group. So the founder of the NA group was essentially, Buddhist, all this. I think he was based out of Portland. I can't remember the name of the group for the life of me. I'm always trying to remember. I got a book somewhere. But I guess he got hit on some rape allegations. So she's like, well, I've seen how you talk. You're powerful. You know, it's kind of like how Larry says, your voice controls a room. People listen to you. Like, come with me. Like, this is what's been going on. Here's an update on all of the rapes, the sexual abuse allegations. This guy's a monster, and they need to strip his name from everything. And I was like, all right, fuck this dude. Because she basically weaponized my trauma that was still existing that I was working through. So we went upstairs to, I believe it was Whole Foods, because they had a second story. We went to a meeting room, and I was sitting there with like men and women in fucking suits from God knows where, people who actually spend their time working with drug addicts, working with people going through alcohol addiction, working with people on the streets. And what do? I control the fucking room. I shut them the fuck down. Your founder's a rapist, a sexual abuser. You are supporting this. All of this. You are monsters. Why in the hell should we have to sit here and listen to you? I'm like standing up at the board table. I got like 6, 7 people around me, and I'm fucking chewing them the fuck out. I'm like probably 23 at this time. There's like 30, 40-year-olds in there, like professional people. And they got shut down by me. Nothing changed because of me. But this person that brought me into the situation basically got what they wanted. They turned me into a wrecking ball. This group that helped save me for a brief period of time and helped get me out of a bad spot, I turned on it with no question in mind. That's the level of rage and stupidity that a lot of people out there are operating on. And I just want people out there who may be operating on that stupidity and anger to fucking stop. And even after all that, I wanted to gun somebody down. Like,
no, the thing I said was, so you got pissed off and you did that email out of hate, but it was a big nothing burger because nobody was there.
Yeah.
So you wasted that amount of time on a rage into air, basically.
Yep.
And thousands of Americans are doing it every fucking day.
Right.
It's not good for you. It's really not good for you. And you feel like an ass. I'm sitting here at 28. I could drown myself in all the stupid shit that I've done, but most of it comes from the last 10 years. Like, realistically, and I think that's what drives people to disassociate from it, is because people know they have a laundry list stacked up and they just don't want to look at it, because as soon as I fucking took that cork out of that bottle, sprayed everywhere. House is a fucking mess. I'm soaked. Like, but it's worth getting through because we're just hurting people. I was just hurting people.
Ty, let me ask you, what would Antifa have an issue with someone like Brad, or I think it's Tom Robb's group in Arkansas, somebody who wants to have a separatist community that's white, because Antifa has no problem with black separatist movements in their communities. They evidently have no problem with Chinatowns. They have no problem with Mexicans that all congregate and live in the same area. So what would Antifa have a problem with someone like what Brad's talking about, white separatism? Why would they have a problem? What is their general argument? I mean, I know you can't speak for every Antifa person, but I mean, just in general, what would they have a problem with it?
It would all get compared to Jim Crow instantly. It would all be, we're going back to Jim Crow. We're going back to whites and blacks only. We're going back to this. But then almost simultaneously, I've seen a lot of blacks only stuff popping over the last few years. It's like, so there is the association, but because communism has you focus on these historical fallacies. So it's like you're focusing on Nazism, but you're also focusing on the era of slavery. So there's essentially little to nothing that either of you could do in that space that would not be compared to one of those two eras based off of general.
Even if like the separatist community in Arkansas and other places, they're not asking the government to enforce some sort of Jim Crow type of segregation. They just want to live in their own little area. Maybe they buy their own land, 1,000 acres or something. I don't know. But there would be no like government Jim Crow type laws. It's just a group of people just rather just live in their own little neighborhood, their own area, or on their own property or whatever. I have never understood the problem with that. Why they're so fearful of that.
Well, I could say too, like, I think a lot of the reason that they're fearful of that is probably the same reason I'm fearful of Epic City. It's probably the same residual leftover of, if they can have a city, what can take, or a town, what's going to stop them from expanding?
Okay.
Like a territorial land grab. Like imagine, like, I know you guys probably don't play a lot of video games, but a lot of open world video games right now are categorized like this. You have a giant open world map. And I'll use Far Cry 5 as an example because that was one that was used to demonize the right. It's basically a David Koresh type cult leader comes in. He takes over a whole part of Montana, and it's basically open world Montana. It's probably one of the best games ever. But basically uses psychedelics and drugs and all this to take over Montana after infiltrating all the systems. And essentially the map is divided up. You have the main boss on whatever side of the map, and then you'll have like 3 little mini bosses, which would be like the underlings. And then you'll have different towns, right? You'll have different towns, different areas that you have to capture. And your ultimate goal is to pick off the underlings one by one until you get to the big guy. Antifa thinks of life like a video game. So to them, what they're seeing is outpost. They're seeing conquered areas. They're seeing land grabs, essentially, occupation. So, which, like, again, that's kind of how I see Epic City, the jihadi city, is like, I'm like, you fuckers are coming in, you're occupying, you're going to push all of your Islamic beliefs on us, you're going to rape your children, you are going to abuse your wives. I do not feel like I should have to tolerate this. I would say Antifa probably views that in the exact same way. And maybe in some degree, I feel it in the same way, even though I have more of an understanding of those type of culture, and there's a lot of understanding to be had, and it's not as scary as in some cases. But now I think that's really what it is they see the United States as a map. I mean, because it fucking is. But it's like whenever Trump takes a state, say Trump takes Georgia. Georgia is now a white supremacist state. Texas flips red. Texas is now a white supremacist state. That's now their territory. So that's kind of how it's viewed. I think it's the best way I could put that.
So they're worried about, okay, I understand that. They're worried about the very nature of it spreading.
Because you got to remember, white supremacy is something to be defeated, not tolerated.
But at the same time, I'm not talking about supremacy. I'm talking about separation.
Separation?
It wouldn't be seen as the same thing, though. Because in their eyes, it's equated as the exact same thing. Which is why I think these conversations are so powerful, because I didn't even realize before having these conversations. I'm like, oh yeah, there is kind of a difference. But because there's such a lack of education, because mainstream media is not going to be like, hey, we found this guy, Brother Ryan. He was in the Ku Klux Klan and the Aryan Brotherhood, but this is his life now, and he's got a really good positive message about being yourself and finding your inner bliss. He ain't gonna do that. they sure as hell ain't going to give you space to explain your background, how you're basically y'all's culture and Antifa's culture are meant to be kept separate through social media, through social interaction, through media division. Your world and what was my world were never supposed to meet. Ever. That was not the game plan. I'm probably the only former white Antifa member sitting down with people like you, because that was never on the table. It was never even a consideration. So how am I supposed to understand white separatism, white supremacy, if I'm not allowed to hear you speak? If the colleges, colleges in the United States, Ku Klux Klan used to come to the colleges, as it should be. But they're not allowed to. The students are not allowed to know about your world. College students, the educated ones who are supposed to build our world and restructure our society and help save America by becoming doctors and lawyers, they're screaming about people like you all day. They have zero understanding of your culture, in the same way that probably up until meeting me, y'all didn't really have much understanding of Antifa's culture, because until you have that interaction from somebody who's actually been there, everybody else is just going to lie to you or come to you with some sort of political agenda behind it. It's kind of how I see it.
You're probably right that we probably weren't supposed to ever actually sit down and talk.
Just know I never killed myself. Just throwing it out there.
Yep, and I'm not suicidal either.
How about you, Ryan? You feeling down lately?
Yeah, it's like to me, like Antifa. What do they want? They want a left-leaning socialist government, communist. What is it their ultimate goal, or do they even have a goal?
Material manifestation.
Of?
I mean, things that everybody would want. Food prices are expensive, gas prices are expensive, housing costs are expensive. That's definitely a worry. People are worried they can't have careers. People are worried they'll never be able to have homes. I'm 28. I thought I'd have a house by now. I'm sitting in a 1-bedroom apartment. The walls are borderline made of plastic. So there's something kind of defeating about that. So the idea that somebody can give you these things, that's powerful. Never mind the fact that Trump 2 days ago made it to where it's easier to get a single family home. They're never going to look at that. But not just that, though. There's a greed behind it, especially with like the welfare system and everything that was going on in Oregon. People want video games. People want their toys. People want their trinkets. People want their booze. People want their drugs, and they want it handed to them. So you have this communist Marxist ideology where historically that's what they do. They give you drugs, they give you booze, they give you sex, they dumb down your education system, they make your cost of living worse and worse and worse, they make your society worse and worse and worse, they ultimately lock you down into a police state. But for them, they're not seeing themselves as the cause or the participants, they're seeing
themselves as the ultimate people that are the citizens that Klaus spoke about when he said you will own nothing and be happy. They don't see this, that they actually are soldiers for the capitalist agenda. I'm going to say this again. I said in another podcast that's talked about some of this, I know of 2 anarchists that would call out all the Antifas for the false anarchist, pseudo-anarchists that they are in the climates. One is the Russian anarchist Bakunin, who, when he was all buddy-buddy with the Jew Karl Marx, until he realized, and in his own writings, exposed Karl Marx for working for, as he said, his own race and the wealthy Jews. Russian Bakunin said that, the Russian anarchist. And he was friends with Karl Marx, and he realized. Then you have the American anarchist who also lived at the same time Karl Marx did and was alive, who was here in America, Lysander Spooner, who wrote about the Rothschilds, the Jew banking system, and how it was supported. It's funny how Antifa don't like the Confederate flag, but I can show you anarchists in America that sympathize with the Confederate South because they understood the bigger picture. It wasn't, okay, Lysander Spooner was an abolitionist lawyer. He hated slavery, and he supported the Confederacy, and that's on record. And he exposed the Jew bankers, the Rothschilds by name, in his book, The Constitution of No Authority. So the Antifa people have never broke open a book or anything written by an anarchist, I don't believe. because anarchists will tell the truth. We're not saying we support the Confederacy or another statist system. Just like I rubbed shoulders with a lot of Southern nationalists who were Southern separatists, the League of the South and people like that. And they wanted the South to secede. They wanted the lost cause to become alive again and the South rise again and separate and legally separate and, create a Confederacy type government. And I was like, I don't support that either, but I support the right to sovereignty and separation for the southern states. I support the separate. There's a Puerto Rican separatist movement. There was a Canadian separatist movement among the Canadian Indians in Canada a few years ago. Brad may remember that.
I remember that. The Mohawk Indians, yeah.
Indian separatists. I support anybody that says, you know what, we want to be autonomous and create our own little world or pocket or whatever. I support that. Absolutely. So isn't that what the 9th and 10th Amendments supposedly are pointing at? Is the right of sovereignty and the right of the individual and the community? Bakunin, who was an anarchist, said that all communities should have the right to their own little local culture. And he was an anarchist who hated Christianity and everything. But he understood true freedom. Lysander Spooner, again, an abolitionist lawyer who hated slavery and yet sympathized with the Confederacy, and that is on written record. You had Josiah Warren, an American anarchist, who also had his own anarchist communities that he would create, these little experimental stores and economic systems he would create here in America. He's also on record as sympathizing with the Confederacy in the South. We have to recognize people's right to divorce. You know what I mean? Recognize their right to separation if we believe in freedom. So the Antifa people don't realize that they are the useful idiots. They're being used. And just so are the right-wing people, the Trumpers and the left-wing people. They're all being used against each other and don't realize that the only people that benefit and literally profit, financially profit, are the elitists. And Bakunin, the Russian anarchist, Lysander Spooner, the American anarchist, both lived in the 1800s, both recognized that. They realized us fighting each other only serves the wealthy, the elitists, and the people that want to rule over us. Even like I said earlier, if they're poor and don't have no financial power, they still want the government to rule over you. You know, when you're voting for someone, what? A politician. What's a politician known for? Lawmaker. You're voting for someone to make more laws, but we bitch and moan about how there's used to be only 3 federal felonies in the Constitution, and now there's almost 6,000. Well, it's because you keep voting these lawmakers. Every time they get hired, I'm hired at my job to operate heavy equipment. All right, I'm going to do my fucking job. I'm going to do it. Well, it's the same thing. You vote someone in for a political office, whether it's local, state, or federal, he's going or she's going to make more laws, not for you to follow, if it's the one you voted for, but to make everyone else follow. So politics and statism is bullying by proxy.
Well, the other thing is they aren't going to follow the laws either because they always have exemptions for themselves.
Absolutely. So instead of us trying to figure out how to force each other to, live or whatever, this, that, and the other, like, allow people to be themselves as long as they're not harming another person or their belongings, and let them be who they are. To me, that's what I was patriotic since I was a kid. I just loved America. I hate the government, always have. But I've loved the concept and the culture of America with all my fucking heart. I have loved the concept of freedom. It was obsessive to me. I have loved the idea of people being to be free because that's where you get different ideas. You get exposed to different ways of living, different ways of everything from dressing to music to you get all kinds of different things.
So you're familiar with, I think this came out in the 90s. I love my country, but I fear my government.
Well, I don't fear my government. Yes, I hate my government.
You know what I'm saying? That came out in the 90s. I love my country.
Bumper stickers at gun shows. Yep. And I used to go to a lot of gun and knife shows. And so, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't go for the guns, you went for the books and the other people you met. But anyway.
Well, my favorite one was the Dayton gun show. Do you ever been to one of those back in the day? No. That thing was huge. When you were walking through it, if you saw something, you better buy it because you didn't have enough time to get back to that table.
Get back to that table, yeah. Somebody else to get it, yeah. But to me, I'm just going to keep preaching it. I'm just going to keep saying that we have got to recognize everyone and expect everyone to be an adult and recognize that people can make their own decisions. And we can actually, all humans can get along to one degree or another. It's just out of mutual survival, for that matter.
Mutual respect, even.
Yes.
You know, it's just, I don't have to like somebody in order to respect them. I can completely hate somebody. I can still respect them. Like,
absolutely, they're still a human being, and you don't want to harm them or their stuff as long as they're not trying to harm anybody else or their stuff. I don't want to use any violence against you or harm anything. I don't even want to say anything about you. Just say I disagree with your beliefs or something, right? But that's okay. They're not a threat to me because you don't have a government trying to enforce your beliefs on me. I'm down for that. To me, that's the American ideal. That's just how I see things. It's supposed to be freedom, individual freedom, where we're a bunch of individuals where, well, one thing we can agree on, like my one video is titled that, the one thing we can agree on is individual freedom. And this wanting to, it's like, okay, you got the right wing, they're just reaping their karma, basically, because the right wing conservatives were pushing so much hateful bullshit generations before, right? Now you got the people pushing back, and the right wing is, they have a fit if a guy's got a piercing or a tattoo or, you know, this, that, or the person's openly gay. What do you fucking care? You know, if you feel like it's against your religion, just don't be gay. Don't get a tattoo. Okay? But in the end, you have to respect that. Now, if you believe, well, that person's going to go to hell when they die, okay, that's your belief, right? But you want a government to enforce your Christian right-wing conservative bullshit? Even when I was a white power person, was never interested in that shit. I would, if I heard people or read people saying that, I just gleaned over it because I didn't give a shit about that kind of stuff. I'm like, I think people are, there's enough strength in the human being, the human organism, the collective, that we're not going to fall apart if we all have different personalities and different beliefs, but we all can respect one another. That's the unifier. The love for one of the human, just actual human natural affection. Just respect. You see somebody hurt on the side of the road, don't you want to help them? You know, you're in the store and somebody drops something, don't you want to bend over and pick it up for them? You see someone trying to get through a doorway and they're carrying something, you open the door. Just being a human. Somebody trying to get into traffic and you let them in, you know. It's just being fucking human, dude. And
for those that have a hard time with it, it takes daily practice for some people. I've known a lot of people, they've had to train themselves to be good people. Tom, the former Antifa member I talk about on the channel, who helped me uncover a lot of these connections that are going on. You know, he was so vocal. He would just tell me everything going on in his head. And I kind of realized I do the same thing. But I was just like, man, you don't gotta explain everything. It's fine. I get where you're coming from. And he always just over-explained himself. And he just shut me down at one point. He's like, no, I need to do this. He's like, I joined Antifa. I became a drug dealer. I've ruined my life. I lost my children. I lost the love of my life. My life is hell. The only way out of it for me is to practice radical honesty. And he's like, so I'm trying to get the hang of it. And
that's awesome. Dude,
I wanted to like cry a happy tear when I heard that. I was just like, you are like, that was like one of the few cases in my life where I've seen a narcissist, self-proclaimed narcissist working through his shit because he recognized his narcissism. He recognized his ego, his pain, his struggling, his fucked up past. And he said, you know what? I just have to practice not lying, not being a dick. And yeah, that's hard. I've had to train myself not to lie and be a dick. I've been the biggest asshole. I'm so nice on the channel. People at work ask me, like, are you always been this nice? I'm like, no, I used to be the biggest piece of shit you ever knew. I could ruin your fucking life. Lord knows what I could do. I was a fucking wild card. But I don't want to be that. So I have to actively practice. And sometimes I slip back. Even on the channel, I posted a picture the other day on the post. I'm like, fuck around and find out. This bitch deserved to get shot, basically. And I'm sitting there and I'm emotionally reacting. It wasn't even the same woman that got shot in the picture. And I had to sit there after someone pointed out in the comments, and I'm like,
I've seen that.
Doing it again. I just deleted it. I was like, I'm not going to say you're right. I'm just going to take the L on that one.
I've seen that in the comments.
Me falling back into my bullshit. I don't want to do that. It's easy.
I seen the comments and they were calling you out, and I was like, okay, he'll take care of it. I seen it.
And I want to say too that almost comes from a healthy place, because as I've been working through a lot of this, especially going into George Floyd 2.0, because I feel like that's what this is. I don't want to spend all my time living in that anymore. So all I really saw of that whole thing was the girl driving away in the car and the shots popping off. I didn't want to invest all my time in the story and what does this person have to say? What does this person have to say? What did this angle have to tell me? So I couldn't recognize her face, but I still felt the emotional reaction. But it's kind of like, that's kind of like, I feel like the podcast has helped me step out of that, because I used to be in the Bat Cave listening to all these doomsday podcasts and preppers, and I could have told you where all the nuclear planes were at any time, even though who the fuck am I and what am I even going to do with that fucking knowledge other than scare myself? But because I've been working through this pain, because I've been talking to people like you, like on the podcast and off, because there's a lot of conversations I have off the podcast that are just equally empowering, it kind of helps me not give a shit. I kind of recognize, okay, everything that's happening right now, it's what I've been saying for years since I left. This is exactly how I expected it to play out. Everything's going, don't want to say according to plan, but it's like, it's just pattern recognition. I've called all of this happening step by step. Obviously, so it's like, why am I going to worry about it? I know what's going to fucking happen. I know some bitch is going to try to run down ICE tomorrow and get shot.
You see, that's the right thing to look at it, because they're going to do what they're going to do. But here's the thing: you do what you got to do. You go your own way. And like I said, if you're inspiring people as a leader, the people will follow you anyway. And there's going to be more people like you. They're going to keep doing this. Now, I was going to say something here. Oh, yeah, there is no political solution. I know Brad's heard that term, and there's no political solution. So what's the next people do? The leftists and the rightists, what do? Well, it's going to be a revolution. You see it all over YouTube. It's going to be a revolution. I've been hearing that shit since I was a kid. I've been hearing that the New World Order and the One World Government since I was 14 years old. All right, and Brad and I are the exact same age. All right, I was into that, studying the New World Order conspiracies when I was 14 on my own. I wasn't raised around this stuff. I was looking into all this conspiracy stuff, all this things, and this revolution is going to come, and the American dollar is going to fall. Brad and I have been hearing that all of our lives, literally. Instead of saying, let's just live here we are, almost 60 years old. Let's live our fucking lives. Let's love our lives. Let's love what we love the people we love, and let's live with gusto. Memento mori, man. Remember, you die. So let's do some good here. Let's be a blessing to people, be a blessing to ourselves, and to those around us. And if what we do, if we ever become famous and we create or invent something or write a song that becomes famous, awesome. If we don't, we still are doing something wonderful in our lives and live our lives. Whereas there's no political solution, there's no revolutionary. The people that win in a militant revolution, if you study history at all, is always going to be the elitists. The people never win. Okay, you had the People's Revolution in China. Did the people win? Look how the Chinese people have been deducted to little non-thinking little drones, treated like shit, right? You have the same thing in other places, anywhere. So there's no violent solution. There's no statist political solution. The Constitution's not going to save you. Okay, no military philosophy. Your AR-15 sitting in your closet is not going to save you. What's going to save us is the power of love. And people think they don't like that. But I'm telling you, the power of love and the loving people are always going to rise to the cream of the crop, and they're always going to overshadow. Now, the statists and the elitists don't like that. Donald Trump does not love people. Okay? Joe Biden didn't love people. They don't love people. They love their careers, their egos, their elitist little system, the little club that the comedian always talked about, the big club, and we're not part of it. That's a fact. And I don't want to be part of an elitist ruling club. Okay, they ask me all the time at work, you want to supervise? No, I don't want to do that. I'll lead by example, but I'm not interested in being a boss over anyone at work. And it's the same thing. I don't want to rule over the human being. I'd rather lead you by my example. And if you're inspired by me, that's what I want. That's strength. That is true strength. These people, I don't care if George Washington or Donald Trump, Joe Biden or whoever, these people get elected president, congressmen, senators, mayors, they're nothing to me. They're elitist cliquists. You have to be part of their clique. If you've ever known cops like I have, personally known them, you know what they are. They think differently than we do. They do not recognize us as equals. I told my supervisor at work one time, I told him, I said, we have these, will you do these things every so often with our, raises and stuff, and you all have these little checklist where, you go down, did you show up every day at work, you do your job, good attitude, et cetera, and whether we get our raise or not. And I said, that's cool. How come we workers don't get to do that to the management? Evaluate you and see if you get a raise in your salary. He looked at me, he had nothing to say, and I'm like, that's the problem. That's the problem. You think that there's a class of people, it's feudalism. It's just another form of feudalism. You think there's a class of people that rule over other people. That's what Antifa is. That's what the right wing is. That's what the left wing is. These people that want to rule other human beings. It's repulsive to me, and I've always thought that was wrong. At the same time, people should be able to have their beliefs and the lifestyles they want to live without being molested or fucked with by other people. And if people can't accept that concept, then you're just always going to have this rigmarole, fighting and bullshit. Human beings need to have integrity and respect for one another.
I think that's a big problem. Is a lot of people don't have integrity anymore.
Yeah, they're not raised that way, brother.
No,
They're not
they aren't.
raised that way.
It's babies raising babies out there. That's what it is anymore.
Well, no, come on. My parents were younger than I was when I had my kids. So it's not babies raising babies. It's nobody's taught personal responsibility.
There's one. That's one of the things.
Nobody's held accountable to their actions. Everybody's online, and nobody's been punched in the face for half the crap that they've said to people.
Kids aren't taught boundaries.
On top of that, everybody's sheltered from bullies. What did we used to do to a bully when we were kids?
There you go, Brad.
My first fight was when I was in kindergarten against a second grader. He was a bully. Guess who won?
You want to know the first fight I ever had? Some gay kid I thought touched me in the ass in the closet, and I wound up punching him in the face. Flash forward to 28, I'm like,
Okay, but how old were you?
4th grade.
Okay, so, you about the same age group, but still, I mean, people are sheltered from bullies. Oh, he bullied me. So what? Beat the shit out of him.
Well, not just that. Bullies lost this term. Oh, this person at school accidentally called me he, even though I'm not born a boy. I was bullied today. Oh, this person. It's this the term bullying. It's watered down just like racism. Everything is bullying. Everything is what is it called? Micro offense or whatever the fuck. And you look at the UK. That's kind of what it's all building to. Is people and their inability to raise their children with good morals, good boundaries, good structure, who can't provide their children a route to do that in their own adult life, are ultimately creating a system to where words, they seem so much more powerful than they are, to where, like you said earlier, these are the people who are voting in the next lawmakers. Well, now this is my perception of bullying, because I've never actually been bullied in my life. And I need to make sure that these bullies are thrown in prison for what they say.
Well, you're about to be bullied by what you're about to be bullied by is lawmakers, and they have a lot more bullying power.
Yes, sir.
Than any schoolyard kid has.
It's the status elitists.
Yeah, so there you go. There's your next brand of, or your next batch of bullies.
Yeah.
That have all the power behind them. Real power.
Real power.
Not just a.
But what you're talking about, Ty and Brad, you're talking about family. You're talking about community. I heard people talk about that in the Christian world and in the Christian identity world and the white power movement. I would hear people talk about community and family. But that comes down to, oh my God, then it's the patriarchy and all, they start trying to tie it into this religious conservatism. You can be left wing and believe in family and community and order in a family home and taking responsibility how you raise your children and things like that.
Not anymore.
Well, I think the big problem, at least what I was seeing in Oregon, is so much of Oregon is built on the flower power movement and the hippie movements and all of that was going on in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
That got infiltrated. They got all the drugs. They got all the fucking with in the world. A lot of these people that were hippies, they're older, conservative, maybe more biker dudes now, kind of just they still exist in this space of free love, but free love in the sense of not worrying so much about the people around you. It's more of a self-preservation. It's more ego-driven. It's more of a what makes me feel good. Because back in the 70s, I got to feel good all the time. Back in the 60s and the 80s, I got to feel good all the time. But now I got all these damn kids. And now I got all these damn responsibilities. And what we were supposed to have a little revolution, and we were supposed to be living like this was not supposed to be the case. And then but they're so self-focused that I've noticed that a lot of these people, they had kids, and then their kids had kids, and then their kids had kids, and you've taken away, spirituality. You've had generations of encouraging drug use, of teaching your children that you can essentially do no wrong, that you are a beautiful, pure being of light, and that you can live your life at the expense of everybody else, which if you look back to what people were preaching back at the hippy-dippy areas of that time, that was quite the opposite. I think that the drugs and the government and all these societal factors and the Cold War and all this coming in really broke these people to where by the time they had children, generations down the line, all this trauma built up. It's kind of like I say, like most of these kids in Oregon, they had no predatory detection patterns. Everyone's getting raped. Everyone's getting cheated on. Everyone's getting stalked. Everyone has a horrible friend that they shouldn't be around. Everyone's getting themselves into bad decisions. And it's like everybody in Eugene, which from what I've been hearing from someone recently is that the Americanization of Antifa really started in Eugene and then went to Portland, which makes sense to why everything in Eugene is so far left driven. But you would not have that without the generational breakdown of the family structure over time. And a lot of these parents just need to check in on their goddamn kids. These kids are just running loose.
Brad will appreciate this because I know his background. And I'm very familiar with that type of world, even though I wasn't directly in that world. I read a lot of their materials, literature, I'll put it that way. And Brad would understand this. It's part of the communist doctrine to undermine the family and the structure. That's why it's funny. Metallica has that song Battery. Well, Battery, that's where you get your energy, right? Battery, the song by Metallica, Battery, is about the family.
Mm-hmm. Never knew
because
that.
That's the power. So the communists, they attack the family unit, and they attack it by saying the patriarchy, they're pressing all the women's, all this type of shit, which is natural and organic, they attack it. Because they have to undermine it. To brainwash you, you first have to attack a person's beliefs on a thing, and then transition them over. Well, what's happened is because they're very powerful. I mean, not powerful. They're very patient, and they had set out. And I know Brad's read this numerous times. Is they set out? The Soviets set out long ago, after World War II, to begin to undermine the cultural bonds in a country. You undermine them. You must break those down and attack the family. And you can attack it financially with the economy being so hard that mom has to go out and work too. To where they're both mom and dad are so deep in debt and stressed out, right? Through taxes, the cost of things, et cetera, interest rates, et cetera. Then you have, of course, the drug, and we know that the CIA is involved in the drugs, right? They're the best drug dealer there is. Then you have Big Pharma, which is also drugs, which creates all these psychotropic drugs for, for, depression, all that kind of crap. Then you have all this stuff that's pumped into people, all this trash is pumped into people to break down the family, to attack the male, especially the white male. The white male is the enemy. The white straight male is the only one that's not in a protected civil rights class in America. If you're a white male that's gay, you're protected. If you're a white woman, you're protected. All other races and all protected. My first speech at a Ku Klux Klan rally, which was in Dayton, Georgia, on courthouse steps. I was invited to speak because I'd already done some other speaking, and that's when I got into the white power movement from there. Is one of the things I said in that, I said, have you noticed that everyone in America, everyone, including the white woman, is legally considered a protected minority, except for the straight white male? And there's a reason for that. Then all this now here, Brad and I didn't hear this kind of bullshit as we were growing up or in our young adult years. We didn't hear shit about the patriarchy. Now all the movies have the girl boss. She's kicking all the men's asses, right? She's the smart one. Or the black guy is the smart one, and the white guy is the dummy. And it's this constant, and especially if it's a white, straight Southerner, Those are the most politically correct to make fun of. Why? Because the white Southern male is the last vestige in the Western world, I dare to argue, that culturally, collectively, in a general sense, represents a man being a fucking man.
And it's true because you think of like a lot of horror movies right now, like a lot of horror movies are based on the fear of white people. Shit like Get Out. Now, if I made Get Out, but it was about black people and it was coming from me, or I went and made a horror movie about, oh, the blacks are coming to kill you and they're all just a bunch of gangsters sitting there fiending ready to, that movie would look terrible. That would be a really fucked up bad movie. People would probably not want to watch that movie. So it's
I like to watch stand-up comedians. My wife and I watch stand-up comedians. And it's always funny to see the white men comedians. They will kiss black people's ass on stage and everything else, but they have no problem making fun of white men. And if they're not from the South, they'll definitely make fun of they'll do the fake Southern accent. And that's because Southern men, we're about basically the last vestige of yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. We hold the door open. Well, see, that represents patriarchy. Why does communism want to attack patriarchy? Because the state, the communist state, the socialist state, the left-leaning state, or the right-wing state wants to be your daddy.
Yep.
Apparently, you've never seen Leonardo Joni. She's a comedian, but yeah, she does. She ruffles a lot of feathers. She's not.
She's more the right-leaning comedian. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think
let's throw this out there too, because a lot of what I do when I'm not listening to the podcast, I'm listening to comedy specials. Comedy is
you have to look for her.
Country.
You have to look for her because she's not throwing it. She's on YouTube, but she's got her own channel. But she's hilarious. I think she's hilarious anyway.
Joni.
Huh?
What was her last name?
Leonardo Joni, I think.
I think I've seen her. Yeah, she's a right-leaning comedian. I've seen her.
Yeah,
she gets in trouble all the time because she's so politically incorrect.
Yeah, she even has to, like, when she does her shows, she has to do them in like hotel conference rooms, and she has to like basically put the date and time out there the night before. For fans to show up.
Separatist groups have to do that.
What was that?
A lot of white separatist groups have to do that.
Yeah.
No, and it's getting scary because, like, especially like a lot of conservative podcasters I've noticed, they're bunkering down on their safety too. It's really fucked up. The left does not have to fear for its safety right now, unless you're going out there throwing yourself in front of an ICE agent. You have nothing to fear right now, except for all the things that we all have to fear. Like government take-up, New World Order. We all have the same fears, but no, it's getting to the point where it's like you have conservative podcasters going into hiding. It's like this. I don't see leftist podcasters going into hiding. I see them crying online saying, "I'm going to go to Canada. This is so horrible." They don't go to Canada unless they're on Epstein's Island. So,
well, they get that. That makes me want to bring up the whole purpose. The saying of if you want to know who rules over you, who can you not criticize. And it's funny that everything is hate speech. Now, my email is YT censorship sucks, which means YouTube censorship sucks. Now, people talk about how YouTube is getting bad. YouTube was sucked when I first got on in 2010. I lost channels and shit because you can't say certain things and you can't do this, that, and the other. And then it's funny to me, people talk about, the white nationalist government rules the world or rules America. The American government's racist. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's funny because racists don't got nothing but harassed by the government, infiltrated and everything else. So that's bullshit. But so then they'll talk about colonialism, right? And they seem to forget it wasn't the white man that oppressed the American Indian. It was the federal government. The Confederacy actually got along with American Indians. There was a branch of Confederate Cherokees and shit. So it was, and Albert Pike, oh my God, the Freemason Albert Pike, who wrote Morals and Dogma. Oh, he said Lucifer was God. Oh, dear God. He was what's it called? The envoy or whatever to the Indians in his area. American Indians during the Confederacy.
Most everybody I've known in my lifetime who, is prideful of the Confederacy or their Southern heritage or all that, older white men such as yourself, there's always a very, very keen interest in Native American culture, I've noticed, which is another thing that kind of like during my time, it confused me because I'm like, they all like Indians. They're all married to Indians.
Here's the thing. The Celts, Scots and all that, the Celts, they also ran around naked, paid in themselves, and went to war. Grew their hair long. My ancestors, some of my ancestors. Someone to come over here and they had to fight Indians and shit like that, it wasn't that weird to us. Genetically so, because we understood that. So, but there's also the Celts, the ancient Celts and the American Indians at that time were very attuned to the earth and loved nature. So there was a lot in common. It was the federal government. Okay, you'd have people in the Midwest, Northwest, and they were going out, not just the Mormons, but they were going out and homesteading. Some of them had to learn to get along with the Indians, and some of the Indians mistreated them. My point is, a lot of them had no problem with the American Indians, as long as the Indians didn't try to harm them. It's never been an issue. But they'll talk about colonialism. All right, the British government we know was involved in colonialism. What it did, you got India, what it did there, Hong Kong, all this colonialism of the English government, right? The English crown, and it was funded by the banksters. Always was. The colonialism.
It was funded by the Crown of England, which isn't the same as Britain or
right. It's the money.
You guys keep talking for a minute. My boss is blowing up my phone. Keep talking. I'll be right back. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Yeah, it's the Crown. You're talking about the Rothschild Bank in London. Is what you're talking about.
Which is separate from the actual, the language that everybody's so used to using. They never separate anything. It's like they don't understand that there is a separation between the Crown Mile and the Bank of, what happens inside that Crown Mile is a completely different country, literally.
Then they ever understand. They talk about the World Economic Forum, but there's still such organizations long before that.
Exactly, yeah. Like the East India Company.
East Indian Company, elitists. I believe that George Washington was part of that elitist mindset, and he would always favor towards his elitist agendas over the American folks, and that's when he would turn against them. See, that's what he did. These people that were elitist mindseted, if that's a word, they had that elitist mindset that they're going to take us like our daddy. They're going to take us by the hand and make us a certain way and rule over their fellow humans.
The Constitution was signed by it was for our posterity, or
for the posterity is what it says in the preamble.
Yeah, but they were the signatories. They were the benefactors of that piece of paper.
Was the Constitution signed, though, Brad?
Excuse me?
Was the Constitution signed?
Well, oh shit, no.
I hate to interject here. And I'm gonna have to go back and listen to what y'all are saying because it sounds so fun. I made a major fuck up, and apparently I wasn't scheduled for 4 today. I was scheduled for 2, so I was supposed to be in work 40 minutes ago.
Oh, shit.
And I was not aware of that. So I hate to cut this short. Would you guys be down to do a part 2 just since this was so abrupt at some point?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because I'd like to continue this. I feel like such an asshole. She called me. She's like, "Are you going to come in today?" I'm like,
"Just a mistake, dude. No big deal."
Hell yeah. Thankfully, I got sick time. I won't get in trouble. But okay, so shit, I feel like an ass now. Well, thank you guys for being on. I'm going to try to get this one up tonight, and as soon as I get back up from work, and let's try to get back together maybe in the next week. If you guys have time, we'll sort out the details later, and I want to get you guys back on here and continue this conversation because I really enjoyed today.
Okay.
Between him and I, we're going to lose a lot of people. You do realize that.
The good ones will stick.
Yeah, but they'll be taking notes and going, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
So they'll be like, they'll start shaking and stuff, going, nobody ever told me this. Well, there's a reason for that.
Our agenda here, brother, is we just want to help free people, open their minds, man.
Amen to that. We all got to stop being stupid. We got to open up our hearts. That's all there really is to it anymore, I feel. Like you said, the battle isn't political, it's spiritual.
Yeah.
Here's something to drop somebody on real quick. Does everybody know that Abraham Lincoln and Marx were had letters going back and forth.
Yeah.
They agreed on a lot of things.
God,
Yep.
we're gonna have to go back into that next time because you just dropped that at the fucking end. Jesus Christ. All right, guys, I gotta go. I only got so much sick time, so I gotta run.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Peace and love, you guys. Thank you very much for being able to do this. And you guys, just be sure to like, share, subscribe, and yeah, just if anybody out there you feel needs to hear this message, even if it's somebody you hate, send it to them. Do it.
A good one.
Peace and love, you guys.
All right,
Peace and
bro.
love.
Antifa, Boogaloo, and right-wing militias, they are the antibodies, not the disease that is destroying our country. The disease is a country run by two corrupt political parties that do not care about you. So deeply incestuous with corporations that they are indistinguishable from each other. A government that spent 6 months debating whether to give their own people $600, but only 24 hours to unanimously agree to give billions of dollars to foreign tyrannical governments and corporations. A government that has bombed villages overseas my entire life for my supposed safety here. This is a call for unity. For all of American people that realize the true threat against us to come together. For every mother mourning her children that was killed by police. For every business crushed down by state lockdowns. For every broken soldier sent to fight wars that have no point. This is our last chance to avoid either a tyrannical government or a bloody and pointless civil war among American people who do not have that much against each other and have more in common than they realize. And a message to the government. We come in peace. We do not intend to commit violence, but I am pleading with you with tears in my eyes and cracks in my voice. If you continue to oppress the American people, they will remain rational no longer. Thank you.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where a dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where I told you to run so we'd both be free? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where a necklace of hope side by side with me? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where I told you to run so we'd both be free? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man, they say we murdered 3? Strange things that happened here, no stranger would it be if we met